Know thyself, and ye shall know the universe and the gods. This was the inscription written on the temple of the oracle of Delphi. Christ says, "Seek first the kingdom of heaven and all righteousness, and all things will be added unto you." He also said the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and he said the kingdom is inside you. Okay? So it means to go within if we want to seek the kingdom. Also in that statement, seek first the kingdom of heaven and all righteousness, and all things will be added unto you. The way the world has got us mixed up is that we seek material wealth first, or even if we're not seeking wealth, sometimes we're just trying to survive because they've put us into a survival state. Many of us are impoverished and many of us are struggling. So some of us are, at the basic rung of what Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Some of us are just struggling with life, trying to get our bare essentials, because that's the world that has been created deliberately. I want to say the next quote before I continue. Seek your salvation with fear and trembling. And also, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So within all of that, we are to seek heaven first. We are to seek God first, and material things will be added, right? So that means it's a byproduct of us seeking God that we gain wealth, just like Job or Lot or all these other persons who acquired wealth, but they acquired it because they were aligned with the universe. They were aligned with higher vibrations, and that will bring your wealth. So but what has happened is that those who are in charge have manipulated us in a way that force us to seek our survival, basically, because they keep on damaging things and we have to keep on rebuilding, like all the time. When they damage the infrastructure of our society through words that I can't even mention, because then they flag my video, right? It starts with W and sounds like tar, and they use these to destabilize society so that we have to keep rebuilding over and over again, so that we're not able to seek. Also, religion stops us from seeking because they want us to simply believe whatever they tell us, and they want us to not use the faculties that God gave us. I was watching a video not too long ago, and the lady says that, oh, we are trying to open our third eye when God had closed it, and that's why we're getting into trouble. Like, well, we weren't born with the ability to read physical books. We had to learn how to read. We weren't born with the ability to walk. We had to learn how to walk. So everything that we've had to do as humans, we had to learn it. Because we have to learn to use the organs of the soul, does that mean it's wrong when we've had to learn everything else? It doesn't even make any sense. But they don't realize that they are also a part of this mass, this intention of either dumbing us down, making us afraid, or destroying us in whatever way. For those of us who decided we're going to continue seeking truth, they find means to destroy us, whether it's by discrediting us, by calling us charlatans or crazy. We may lose our jobs. Some of us lose our lives. For anyone new to the channel, my name is Patrice Elliott. I'm an integrative psychological therapist and a metaphysician. My work involves metapsychotherapy, mindfulness, mediumship, spiritual guidance, and metaphysical treatment. On this channel, I give simplified practical information on metaphysical, psychological, and esoteric knowledge. To help the YouTube algorithm, do like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you. We are told to seek the kingdom first. We are told to seek our own salvation with fear and trembling, which means that we are going to come across things that are going to be scary, upsetting. It certainly has happened to me. So I know this for a fact, but I'm not going to stop seeking. It also means that we don't go by other people's beliefs or what somebody else tell us. For me, that's what I believe. I believe from these scriptures and these statements is that each individual must seek their own salvation by the means that God has given us. And to me, that is the chakra system, for us to develop our chakras so that we can know God or know higher intelligence or be able to communicate with the cosmos ourselves, and that I don't have to rely on anybody to pray for me. I, in fact, don't like anyone praying for me, and only under certain circumstances I will ask for a prayer because I know why I'm asking. But I don't need somebody else to pray for me. I don't need somebody else to intercede on my behalf. We're supposed to learn how to do that ourselves. Yes, we will learn from other people how to do that, but I don't rely on anyone to do it for me, if that makes sense. We have to at some point get to God from point to point without an intermediary. But that doesn't mean that we don't need teachers in the interim because of all of the distortions and all of the lies that have been told. That's why there are disciples who come to help others, whether they call them prophets or seers or whatever the heck they are called, mystics or whatever, that persons choose to incarnate on this planet in order to help others to just try to get through the Maya. But it doesn't mean that those persons are going to be permanently in between or permanent intercessors between you and source. It's a temporary necessity, so because you wouldn't automatically know how to heal from your traumas, for example, because trauma is a blockage, right? Or you wouldn't automatically know how to develop properly without having certain things happen that are not pleasant. Okay. There's something that I wrote that I want to read. I don't know if I've made a video on this before because I just found this when I was writing, because I intended to make a different type of video. But I came across this and I felt like I'm just going to read what I've written. There are those who make it their mission to conscious or unconsciously deceive others that we have no other life and no other purpose but to be born, to gather material trinkets and trophies, to decorate our egos, and then to die. As such, they ensure that there are a number of pursuits that one might engage in so as to create purpose and meaning for one's own existence. Some of us will pass through this life not knowing there was something greater to attain than degrees, careers, trophies, or even children. I can remember being asked what I wanted to be when I grow up. I had two things in mind: a go-go dancer or a housewife. Very limiting, but those were the obvious choices at the time. I knew there were female nurses and teachers, but it didn't dawn on me that I could become that. I didn't know ordinary persons could have extraordinary jobs. My environment wasn't particularly inspiring, and therefore my self-concept was weak. On the flip side, I was a seeker of God since I was a toddler. My awareness of this yearning to be with God happened around age 4. But I had no real idea what that was all about, nor did I know that my ability to see into the spirit world was something of note. When I was a child, I'd wake up and I'd see persons in my room, which later on, when I started thinking about the types of people that I saw, that actually helped me to uncover my path. Like they were like little jigsaw puzzles that I followed, from these beings that I would see, based on the costume, based on what they were dressed like. When I then saw certain beings. That's what caused me to then go and look up, who are these people, what do they believe in, and such. We have worlds within worlds, and we are scarcely conscious enough to comprehend it. That, coupled with the bombardment of distractions that this illusory world is so great at delivering. The majority of us humans feel lost, tired, confused, fed up, or overwhelmed by day-to-day life. As truth seekers, we are commissioned to seek first the kingdom of heaven and all righteousness, and that if we do so, everything else will be added. And I'm just going to interject, like, I don't see majority of religious persons who, the reason why I have a thing against, well, I have a thing, not against, I have a thing about certain types of Christians, because the ones who try to attack other people are the ones who are not even living according to what Christ says. They are going after the material things of this world, and yet they have the feeling that they have the right, and a lot of them rip people off as well. When it comes to business, they have no problem robbing you, which if you charge higher than what something is called, if you charge higher than what something costs, that is stealing. So they don't have no problems robbing. They don't have any problems, trading their soul for material wealth, not developing themselves, but they want to attack other people. And I'm struggling with that still. You can see I have a little bit of a problem when it comes to that. That's my sticking point. That's my sore point, and I'm working on it. And it's just the arrogance of it all as well, and the evil that they project onto people that gets to me, because they are dangerous. And I have had, damages by these people. This is why it upsets me that they believe they're so righteous, and yet they are so wicked. Not all of them. I'm just talking about the wicked ones who do evil to other people and claim that is righteousness. The way our society is set, this has become, for most, a very terrifying position. How can we make seeking the kingdom of heaven our priority when we have masses of bills to pay and crises after crises to overcome? Not only that, the deliberate destruction of our historical data and artifacts, the distortion of spiritual truth, as well as our lack of comprehension of language, has left us terrified of getting things wrong. Or worse, some of us have become puffed up and arrogant to the point that we think if we don't already know something, it cannot be true. On the other hand, many truth seekers are afraid of that which they seek, primarily because they believe they are seeking something unrelated to self or something outside of self. Our phobias and biases are not our personal will. They were foisted upon us consciously and subconsciously through indoctrination, punishment, or even the juvenile practice of ridicule. A word such as God has the ability to trigger fear and resentment in some, while in others it brings comfort and security. The word Jesus is a landmine. Christ has been usurped and weaponized by religious authorities. Some of those who are truth seekers are bamboozled by the reshaping and remodeling of the setting of this priceless gem, not recognizing that no matter what shape or what fixture the church has fashioned, Christ is our personal heritage. And I noticed that when I mention Christ on my channel, it causes a lot of uproar, but and some people unsubscribe, and that is perfectly fine. Like, everybody's going to do what they're going to do, and some people will think that they have a right to attack me. This also happened when I was studying, by the way, because I studied in Ireland, and they thought Christ belonged to them. I was even told in class, like a lot of my teachers did not agree with that. My teachers just let us debate things and talk about things and find it very exciting. But and we have to justify why we do what we do. So when we were in class, we had to present our work. So when we first started, we were trainee, and we had to go and work in agencies, and then we have to unpack that in class and talk about why we're working, how we're working, right? And so there was a man who had he was despairing because he thought that him coming to therapy meant he didn't truly believe in God, and because he was in despair, and he thought that the church should fix him, and because they couldn't, and he came to therapy, he felt like he was betraying his faith. And so I reminded him that even Christ despaired on the cross, and I told him various things in the scriptures, and it comforted him, and he was able to continue with the therapy. When I talked about it in class, the people who were Christians, strong Christians, expressed that I, as a non-Christian, had no right to comfort that man by telling him the scriptures, and that, like, they had preferred that anything could happen to this man, that I should not, because I'm not a Christian. This is how, like, dangerous this thing is for where some people are concerned. And remember, these people are studying to be therapists. That how dare me say something that comforted this man and helped him to continue with therapy and helped him with his mental health. I shouldn't have said anything because I'm not a Christian. And they would have preferred to see him, anything basically happen to him, as what they expressed. And that to me is so crazy, that you would rather a person to unalive themselves, or to be in despair, or for anything to happen to this man, because you felt that I had no right, that I was, because I'm not a Christian. And I say that I'm not a Christian. At the time, I was very not where I am now, like, because it took me a while to overcome certain things that I saw with Christians, basically. And this is why I like to talk about Christ on my channel, because I feel like Christ belongs to all of us. I've come to understand, regardless if you want to go to church, you don't go to church, and the teachings of Christ belong to all of us. But to see the evil that they were speaking, and felt that their evil was good, they would rather this man die than for me, because I'm a non-Christian, to say to this man, it's okay that you despair, because even Christ despaired when he said, why have you forsaken me? That's a sign of despair. And it comforted him. It brought him comfort, and it helped him to continue with therapy, and just gave him that sort of relief. But I don't know if you even get the point that I'm making. Like, this is some next realm. That shocked me. And also when I was in a different class, when I was in London, and I started we were doing mindfulness. We were like looking into mindfulness and things like that. And in my presentation, I said that Christ was teaching the same as Buddha, which he did. There are so much similarities. And again, the Christians in the class jumped on me, and they were so aggressive in trying to deny that there was any correlation between Buddhism and Christianity. And they had not studied Buddhism. They hadn't seen that truth is truth regardless of who was saying it. But it's the violence in that shocked me. And a lot of people, when they become spiritual, they think they have to deny Christ. They have to become antichrist. That's like, wow. Christ is our anchor. Christ is the North Star. Christ is our gravity. Christ is everything. And everyone who spoke the truth taught the same things that Christ taught. They just had different language, different wordings. But when you start to cross-reference these things, you're going to see it's the same things that have been taught. I don't know if I read this part already, so I'll read it again. If we want to seek the truth, we will find ourselves in uncomfortable or even downright terrifying places. And I don't just mean with people trying to attack you. I mean like the things that I've seen some, and there are some people that if it's not written in the Bible, like how scary angels look, for example, if those things weren't written in the Bible, if somebody like me saw a being with all the eyes, they're going to say, oh, you saw a demon is talking to you. It's like so their only reference is if it's not in this little book, that human beings compiled and said, this is what you need to know. And even once upon a time, they used to kill people when people read the Bible. You weren't allowed to read the Bible. There's so much, but I'm just staying calm. Just so there is no ambiguity as to my position, from personal experience and many years of studies, I have come to understand Christ as a state of being and Jesus, aka Yahshua Mashiach, as a person. Psychologically and philosophically, Christ is understood as our highest state of being, which is the same as what they call Bodhi. Otherwise stated as the highest self, is Atman, I believe, or in psychological terms as one's true self, not to be confused with our higher self. So remember I said highest self, which is logos or meaning. And when Viktor Frankl talked about man's search for meaning, he was covertly saying man seeks Christ, because Freud lied and said that we seek power and spicy time. I don't think I'm allowed to say that S word on here, but Freud lied, and then Jung, in this very book, where Jung talked about Freud lying, because I knew Freud was lying when Freud said that we're seeking for S and power, and I was like, but I'm not seeking that. How could that be? And I know Freud is so much more cleverer than me. I'm a pig compared to Freud. I'm an absolute swine compared to Freud. So I knew Freud was lying, because I'm like, I know that we are seeking God, because I've been seeking God, or we're seeking something higher. Even when we don't know what we're seeking, we are seeking truth, we're seeking light, we're seeking goodness. Every human being is seeking this, and it's God that we're seeking, even if we know or not. But I knew it at age 4. So how could Freud not know? And this is what causes some people to unalive themselves, is because of these lies that we are told. And when persons find the life, like life has no meaning to them, because they're not like the animals who just love food and and gaining as many S partners, as possible. That's not a goal for them. They're like, this doesn't make any sense for me, trying to be an alpha silverback or being a hippopotamus that has the land and the has the pool so that they can have mating rights. Like, that doesn't make sense for beings that are more advanced in their soul, but the soul is sleeping, it's not awakened. So they're confused between the ego mind that has to interface with reality and the soul that cannot yet awaken because it'd be too overwhelming. And so these people are in this state of not understanding what they are, who they are. Material wealth doesn't appeal to them. The idea of just being born, having kids, getting a mortgage. Morgue means death, el morgue means death in Arabic, and they just don't understand what life is trying, and because they're not yet fully awakened, and it will cause them to activate this death instinct, and they will unalive themselves. And we see this so many times, and this is why I will continue to speak out, because I know that I've been through those things, and I know other people are going through these things. And mosquito. Oh gosh. Sometimes I act like the mosquitoes are like Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs be hunting the people in the kitchen. When, I know I just showed a view of my hairy armpit. Forgive me, but I'm gonna read this again. Psychologically and philosophically, Christ is understood as our highest state of being, otherwise stated as the highest self, or in psychological terms as one's true self, not to be confused with one's higher self. And Christ means it's consciousness, basically. It's like, yeah. The ego absolutely hates this idea because the ego desires to exalt itself as the highest or the only. Full transparency, when I first discovered this pearl of wisdom, I wasn't pleased. I was in a state of mind that Christ and Hermes warns teachers of, when they said, "Do not cast your pearls before swines, lest they trample you under feet and turn and rend you apart." I was in too much pain to comprehend such complicated concepts. It did not strike me as a pearl. I found the idea aggravating. At the time, I hated being human, as I hadn't the faculties to comprehend what human was. It takes time. Egotists will have bad reactions when they are presented with a different concept of reality to what they have come to believe or accept as truth. This state of dissonance can create violence, be it acting in or acting out. And acting in means that you're more likely that to damage or destroy yourself. Acting out means that you will harm others. In his book, The Undiscovered Self, Carl Jung warns us that those who are self-righteous are the most evil because they project their shadow onto others. It happens in religion, politics, and also in individual relationships. I've had to continue recording on a different day because there was too much interruptions. When I speak of egotism, it is not to put anyone down. It is for us to look at ourselves, because we are all guilty of egotism to varied degrees. As Jung says, for only the fool can permanently neglect the condition of his own nature. In fact, his negligence is the best means of making him an instrument of evil. I'm paraphrasing Jung's statement that if we are to have hope in the goodness of humanity, that we mustn't grow weary of reiterating these thoughts regarding our shadows, regarding what we have done collectively, the evil that we have done collectively, be it as he calls the Christian nation, and what they have done. I will actually read this, what he says. Quite apart from the barbarities and bloodbaths perpetrated by the Christian nation among themselves throughout Europe history, the Europeans also have to answer for all the crimes he has committed against the dark-skinned people during the process of colonization. In this respect, the white man carries a very heavy burden indeed. It shows us a picture of a common human shadow that could hardly be painted in blacker colors. The evil that comes to light in man, and that undoubtedly dwells within him, is of gigantic proportion, so that for the church to talk of original sin and to trace it back to Adam's relatively innocent slip-up with Eve is almost a euphemism. The case is far graver and is grossly underestimated. Since it is universally believed that man is merely what his consciousness knows of himself, he regards himself as harmless, and so adds stupidity to iniquity.
He does not deny that terrible things have happened and still go on happening, but it is always the others who do them. So basically what Jung is saying, that yes, we can see shadow, we can see the darkness, we can see the evil that happens in the world, but we always claim we are the good, and we don't see our own shadow. And because we don't see our own shadow, when we are in groups, in fact, we are even worse. So whether it's the church, whether it's, the state, meaning the government, that once we group up, we can say that it's the other people who are evil, and therefore we can destroy them because we are destroying the evil. And so we keep on playing this game where we're not looking at ourselves because we are too afraid of looking at our own self, and this is what makes us extremely dangerous and destructive. Regarding colonialism, the warning is that once we say we are good, whatever we do, we believe that it's good, and then we give ourselves credence to do those things even when it's destroying others. So I hope you can see the danger of our self-righteousness and the good that we claim that we do. When it's destroying others, we still can't see it. And so persons within any nation or group of people, Jung is using the white race in this specific instant to say when they were colonizing others, because they thought they were good and because they thought they had the good God, whatever they did was good. Okay, so I just want to add everything together just to make a short video, right? So the Roman Empire, for example, call other persons barbarians, and then they were able to go out and conquer them. So you see that there is a demotion in and dehumanizing of people so that they can destroy them. And so the church will also call people demonic so that they feel justified in attacking those people. All of that is done to hide their own evil and their own bloodthirst and their greed, because it's all to do with conquering and it's all to do with power and money and nothing to do with God or goodness. Jung goes on to say, what is even worse, our lack of insight deprives us of the capacity to deal with evil. Here, of course, we come up against one of the main prejudices of the Christian tradition, and one that is a great stumbling block to our policies. We should, so we are told, eschew evil, and if possible, neither touch nor mention it, for evil is also the thing of ill omen, that which is tabooed and feared. This attitude towards evil and the apparent circumventing of it flatters the primitive tendency in us to shut our eyes to evil and drive it over some frontier or other. In the spiritual community, we are also guilty of this, okay? There have been persons, I don't know who has heard it, that says that we mustn't talk of evil because we draw evil to ourselves. This is such a superstition. For those of you who are driven to seek truth, I would implore you not to entirely disregard the scriptures just because Orthodox religion have distorted and reshaped it. Many of you know that some of the scriptures were excluded from the Bible, and for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, you might consider looking up the Constantine and Nicene Council AD 325. As truth seekers, we should operate like detectives endeavoring to solve a crime. We must follow every lead and not disregard any anomaly until we have thoroughly investigated its meaning or see if it leads to other clues. If the word God conjures up too much trauma, use source instead. Seek the source of all creation. And for those who are afraid to seek source, but would rather bury their talent out of fear, I put it to you that this is a sign of lack of trust in the goodness of the one Creator. It is a sign that you still believe in the evil projection of the God of the Bible, a vengeful God who would burn us in eternal hell because we dare to seek truth or we dare to develop the organs of the soul. This image of God is born from the minds of the human shadow. I remove the word psychopath. This is not a true likeness of an intelligent being who understands the folly of a young species who is barely conscious of itself. It is a sick, perverted attempt to control the masses, making them into docile sheeple who seek material gain as a substitute for truth.
In the interest of public safety, I am limited to providing generalized information on this public platform. For a more in-depth understanding of any topics I cover, do contact me via WhatsApp or email to book a free one-to-one session. For more information on the services I offer, do check out my website. All my information is in the description. And once again, thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And do leave me a comment if you feel so moved, or leave me a heart, or tell me where you're watching from in the world. And until next time, love, light, life.